go now. Yeah.
All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to our amazing episode of Founders Unfiltered. Today, we have an amazing founder who's doing something absolutely trailblazing. But before I do that, let me remind you that we are back almost every alternate week with the great operating founders that we have at Fair Angels, both Sumit and Govind. And we always come up with a great company who's got a great founder, and they're just either starting their journey or they've gone a little ahead in their journey so that you can understand how a founder ends up thinking about building it, goes about building it, what challenges they face, and how they end up overcoming them. So for today's episode today, we have Neal. Hi, Neal.
Hi, Shruti.
Neal is the founder for Magma. And so Neal, tell us what that company is about, how you went about thinking about creating it. How did you actually find that gap? And how did you end up making a company like that?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me. And yeah, everyone like creators of products for facilitating this. Of course, Govind and Sumit. So I'm building Magma. Magma is a platform for global trade. We're essentially building a cross-border marketplace for unique merchandise from India. We built a company around the thesis of Indian manufacturing. So essentially, we work with Indian suppliers and manufacturers and kind of open a new stream of demand for them. What we're doing is we're helping e-commerce merchants. So everyone ranging from Amazon resellers to Shopify store owners. We believe sourcing for them is hard. It's an ugly problem. And we're creating a marketplace platform where we kind of facilitate sourcing for them. So everything ranging from product discovery, product onboarding, end-to-end logistics, we do it all.
Awesome. What were you doing prior to creating this company? So I could understand what background you're running into this company from.
Yeah, so I come from a background of building materials. So our family business was in building materials, so I had a little bit of experience in that. But also I started working for a company where I was doing product sourcing for them. So started with customer service, and in the building materials industry, kind of worked my way up to product sourcing, logistics. And essentially the company I was working for, we were sourcing our materials from India. So that's where it's kind of strengthened my resolve that, okay, India is a great sourcing hub. And that there's an opportunity out there. So I did my little bit of research and saw what kind of category we should go after for. And a lot of my friends at that time were running their own Shopify stores. Some of them were B2B dropshippers. Some of them were running their own like white label brands. And I kind of knew that they were relying on a lot of like typical marketplaces out there. And during the conversations, like I was always hearing complaints that, okay, it's Thanksgiving and my materials still haven't come. Christmas break is coming, and there's so many logistical issues. So I knew we could build something for them, make it easy for them. And I was like, okay, let's think of India as an opportunity. And during my experience at that company, it kind of strengthened my resolve that, okay, India is the next sourcing hub.
So most of these people were previously sourcing from, say, the Alibabas of the world.
Yeah.
Is there like a pain point from them? Because from what I understand, that is the only source that they have. Do they have any other source, any other alternate? And is that what you're trying to build?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, actually. A lot of these guys that I'm talking about, Amazon resellers, Shopify merchants, about 80% of them are relying on AliExpress because these are the guys who I would say don't have a major risk appetite or capital appetite. So they buy like low MOQs. So essentially what was happening was they buy anywhere from 50 to 500 pieces and from AliExpress. But this is even before pre-COVID, because of increasing like labor cost, geopolitical tension, the lead times have been more than 40 days. And even the goods, when they're coming after 40 days, sometimes there are quality issues. And it wasn't a reliable kind of supply chain thesis to be dependent on. So yeah, AliExpress from China has been like one of the sourcing hubs, and we're kind of trying to emulate that here in India, but with a lot of different theses. It's not a horizontal marketplace. We're going after a certain category. We're kind of using a lot of analytics and integrations to facilitate that. And yeah, we have a couple of modes that I'd love to double down on during the course of this call that we believe we're very bullish on.
Awesome. And I'm not aware, do you have a co-founder or are you the founder CEO for this?
So yeah, I'm the solo founder and CEO, but I have amazing team. I have someone in my team who's doing the tech, Varenya. He's based in San Francisco, California, currently wrapping up his MBA. That guy loves marketing. So he's like a CTO, but he likes to call himself a CMO as well. So he's doing like a front end part of it and kind of working on the back end side of it, figuring out as we go. We have someone in our operations team as well, Ashish. Ashish works with me on a day-to-day basis. He's like someone I like really count on a daily basis. So his experience is an import and export. For 8 years, he did supply chain and brings in a lot of experience in terms of cross-border trade, the formalities, what kind of air freight agencies we should partner with. That's pretty much it in terms of the team.
Awesome. So we have Govind and Sumit as well. Govind, Sumit, your question, if you have one.
So, sorry, Sumit, let me...
Go ahead.
So, Neal, I've seen drop shipping for myself when I ordered some clothes for my 2-year-old from an American website and it got delivered straight from China. I think that's the highest level of evolution, and the lowest is just doing a marketplace with some inquiry system and here and there.
Yeah.
How do you see it playing out? I mean, what's your dream vision?
So our dream vision is, we know since our lead times are really fast and the fact that we are a low MOQ business, we're going to attract a lot of drop shippers. But our main goal is those B2B wholesale buyers, Amazon merchants who are trying to who have their own little fulfillment center, fulfilling in their garage, whatever they're trying to do. So like I mentioned, anything ranging from 50 to 500 pieces is like our sweet spot. Those are the kind of buyers we want to attract. And our vision in terms of that is that everything, like I mentioned, from product discovery, it's a huge pain point for them. The rationale for these persona buyers, the persona for these buyers is they want to look for products that they can build a brand out of, because eventually they want to expand into a D2C brand, expand into a category from these products. So listing products that attract them to our marketplace, kind of offering a good assortment and giving them all sorts of services. So some of our features we're trying to integrate are white labeling services, so that we're like a one-stop sourcing destination for these merchants, brands, potential brands. Our vision is to make this cross-border trade so easy that the first narrative when it comes to sourcing should be Magma.
Understood. So you are looking at a global B2B2C Meesho enabling businesses. You're not looking to do B2C at all. Keep it simple.
Yeah, keep it simple for sure. B2C is right now we're getting into it. Like our narrative is that, when like Jim walks into a Walmart and he sees a laundry mesh bag for $11, he should have the narrative that, okay, I could buy this for $1.50 from Magma, wait 7 to 8 days, with shipping being $6.50 and still get it in $9. So we want to instill that narrative that, we can source directly from manufacturers in India, wholesalers from India. And with our low MOQ based business, how we've structured our supply chain, we know we can facilitate that.
And my last question before I hand it over to Sumit. So in an ideal world, they should be able to talk through the platform with escrow through the platform and MOQ through the platform, or will it be some level of facilitation of each deal by the Magma team?
No. Everything is going to be via platform. Like I mentioned, the product they select, the kind of quantity they want, the kind of services they want, the kind of security they want, and most importantly, the kind of lead time they want. We believe that the target buyer we're talking about, they only care about 3 things, which is cost, transit time, and predictability of the system. And cost and predictability of the system, we believe, are the most important, because transit time is something that it varies in lieu with what kind of the external factors are as well. So as we continue to nail down on it, yeah.
Understood. Over to you, Sumit.
Yeah, so I think, Neal, one very important question, which I think which I would like to address and also check with your thoughts on it. That you talk about 3 points right now, but I think there's one very important aspect, which is quality. Okay, I think if I look at a business, because I've seen how Alibaba operates, and today they have built a mechanism where they know that the quality of supply is good or bad, and they built a lot of algorithm on top of it. So how do you see that shaping out of Mina's ecosystem? Because in India, still quality remains variable. The same supplier can make different quality every single time he manufactures the same product, right? So how do you ensure the quality is same for the bigger B2B players who orders from you in million of pieces? Then what happens there?
Yeah, no, that's a brilliant question. And we as much as we considered suppliers as a strength, that supply part can also be a weakness equally. So how we kind of structure that is, the Indian supply chain is extremely fragmented. For every product, there are 500 manufacturers, 5,000 wholesalers, and even 500,000 local traders. So how we kind of structure it is the supplier, we base our decisions on 2 things. Does the supplier have ready stock? That we don't want a situation where once we get a lead and we kind of work with the supplier, they don't have stock. So we check that. NB is of course quality. So for every product, we have 2 to 3 suppliers listed down, and we kind of work with them. It's at the stage we are in, we like it when people say that you're also an accelerator or like an enabler because you work with these wholesalers. But at the same time, about in our third quarter or so, we'll kind of go into aggregation. We'll buy it upfront. We'll do our own pre-vetting and make sure that there is enough sense of security. That brings me to one of the features that we're kind of working on, that on the off chance that something happens during transit, in cross-border trade, there's chance for breakage of goods or something. There's a feature we're trying to announce soon. Stay tuned on our LinkedIn where we will kind of work with that.
No, we're following you. We're following you. Don't worry on that. Yeah. Whoever comes on creator products, we don't miss them. We keep following them and also connecting them to a lot of proper enablers of business. Yeah. I think my next question here is demand side. Okay, demand side, you are going head on against Alibaba in that case initially, right? And obviously supplier base is different because you are supplying from India, supplying from China. But yeah. I also know a lot of suppliers in India who work on Alibaba, and they're supplying via Alibaba to a lot of people in Europe and US, right? Yeah. How do you get to that problem? Because that's a big problem, I know. And I see it myself that, these guys are people who will give to the products to the person who gives upfront payment. And that blocks a lot of capital for you. So how do you see that problem solving for you?
So to be honest, it looks like a problem from the outside, but when we actually started, getting our hands dirty into it, we never faced a significant problem into this domain. And A is because if you open Alibaba or AliExpress today, 2 out of 3 times the website won't open up. So I think that speaks volumes about where AliExpress is at right now in terms of the UI, UX, and it's not a user-friendly e-commerce website. And just anecdotally speaking, 8 out of 10 buyers we're talking to these days, they're telling that we're already looking at suppliers from Latin America, from Vietnam, from Southeast Asia to source our goods. There have been a couple of huge Shopify brands who are doing over $1 million ARR, and they have been talking to me that if you can interface with us to a manufacturer from India. So there's a receptive opinion from brands all over the world to kind of consider India, Southeast Asia, of course, India being on the forefront on the supply side. And as we continue to build it, we'll have more clarity on the issue. Maybe what the point you're suggesting is something because we're kind of in our early days, so we haven't faced it too upfront. But I think I'll give you a much deeper insight once we reach that stage.
I'm sure you're going to face it because I can tell you from experience in a rocket internet, I know it's a big problem that you will face. Okay. And because I was doing cross-border business that time for them, and we had suppliers from India who were selling in markets like Sri Lanka, Myanmar, Bangladesh, and we face issues because sometimes the shipment got stuck in customs at both sides. So you don't have control on that, and that's something where you will have a tough challenge to solve. But anyway, it's a good problem to solve, Neal. And I think I wish you all the best, man. It's a fantastic problem you're solving.
Thank you.
And over to Shruti. I know you've today been silent, so I'll give it dice back to you today.
Yeah.
Thank you. I actually want to take up from what Sumit just said. There is a particular amount of time that it takes for something to get into customs, get okayed by them and get out of it. Now, that is the one thing that contributes, in my understanding, to the most of the transit time. The flight duration is the same for everything, but it's these legalities that take time. Now, I see that there is a big claim that you've made this entire time very small. How is it that you're possible to do that?
Yeah, a little known fact about cross-border trade and especially air freight is that 50% of air freight happens in the belly of a commercial aircraft. So what that kind of entails is that when we talk about cross-border ecosystem, we have to also look at the kind of flights going to and from that country, how the suppliers from a particular country have been navigating their way into this whole air freight corridor, I would say. So how we kind of see is our main market is the US, right? So if you look at the India-US flight corridor, there's a lot of traffic, there's a lot of transit going. So that kind of allows us a faster lead time. B allows us a cheaper lead time. And when you compare that to the likes of China, this is even pre-COVID because of the geopolitical situation. Flights to and from China and USA have been significantly low. So like I mentioned, 50% of air freight depends on that. And since that's low, naturally your air freight goes high. Naturally your lead times go higher. And China has been doing air freight, AliExpress has been the giant and is a giant for the longest time. So having so much backlog, I had a person telling me that it took over 64 days for just 20 pieces of goods to arrive. And I think that kind of speaks volumes about the opportunity we're solving. of course, like infrastructure is something that will like, curtail this problem as we scale. But yeah, I think this answers your question, I guess.
Yeah. Also, are you also going to be, and this might be like way in the future, are you also going to be thinking of going into the direction of doing the last mile drop for the product that you do? Because in that case, now you've done almost the entire cycle of logistics. Is that something that you see yourself in? And do you think that that's like a profitable part of what a business, good business money would be at?
So yeah, I'm not too sure about the last mile drop, but we're definitely like this piggybacking on my previous point, like infrastructure. One of our long-term vision is, of course, to have like fulfillment centers all over the world, starting with the US, so that on the off chance there's a situation where the freight corridor, right now the gas prices are so high because of the Russia-Ukraine war. So on situations like this, our customers never have to pay, it's never a pinch in their pocket because of that, if that makes sense. So like, having a little bit of fulfillment in the US, kind of having analytics on what kind of products are like, selling the most, having a container load of materials like shipped there and divided, and making sure that we're living up to our lead times of 7 to 10 days for the max. We know we can reduce it. We know once we go into the larger fulfillment play, we can curve that down to 3 to 5 days. But yeah.
Yeah. So help me understand in like a timeline perspective, how long has Magma been around, and did you face the COVID black swan event that e-commerce went through? Because it went good and bad both for e-commerce. For logistics, it was kind of a nightmare, but for digital selling, it was pretty much a jump, but then again, logistics was going through something else. So what's like the timeline for Magma? What has been the timeline for Magma, and did you face any problems there?
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of on the front lines of it. There's always cross-border trade is, I always like to say that it's hard. And that's why one of our sayings, we kind of joke around in our team that where there's a mess, there's a margin. So this situation of what you're saying, Magma is 3.5 months old, almost 3 months old, not even 3.5 months old. And we've kind of been working on just validating the supply chain and seeing that there is a good opportunity out there. And we've been successful in identifying that. How we've been doing is I'll give you an example. Just yesterday, I was talking to Ashish from our team, and he was telling that, Neal, I'm going to go to like the airport and where there is like air freight cargo like stored, and I'm going to identify who's the like main agent who's kind of handling that, and we're going to work with them. So we're all hands on the deck. So like to answer your question, I wouldn't have a deep insight, but we know that there is every product has a different GST number, every product has a different HSN code, every product requires a different compliances. Just yesterday we got an order from a client in Australia, and we came to realize that for this product we require a valuation certificate, so that's an added cost. So we like I mentioned, we're on the front lines of it. We continue to discover like hardships in this process of cross-border trade, and that kind of strengthens our resolve that okay, not everyone can do this, and it's an execution heavy business. Like in terms of the pricing as well, they fluctuate. So what is 600, 700 rupees per kg? Just yesterday, the rates for that were 1400 rupees per kg. And these things play a role in our decision making as well. That's why we've narrowed down like the kind of products we want to work with, the kind of categories we want to go after for. And most importantly, a lot of our decision based on volumetric weight of the product. For how much low money we can give more products. Why do you see there are so many jewelry Shopify stores in the US? Because they are low articles, very lightweight. So for $200, you can get like almost 2,000 rings, and you can sell one ring for $14 and make a good business out of it. Exactly. So we've done our analogy, we've done our research to make sure that every product we list out there, it's not something that we have to go keep looking the demand for it. There is already a base that we can just pivot ourselves to.
Yeah, I think that is why for a lightweight item, they cost a lot. So that's usually why a lot of people go around. Okay, another question. Now that you have been building a team for about 3 months now, how did you all end up being in a conversation together to come to the decision that, all right, fine, now I'll make a company? How did convincing, or how did that realization happen?
Yeah, absolutely. So Varane is my senior in college. He was someone I worked with during the course of my undergrad. And during my early days when I was starting with this whole concept of entrepreneurship, with even like the previous family business that I was working for, he was kind of someone I used to always run by my ideas from and kind of like get his say, because he always gave me like an honest opinion in terms of the marketing side of it. So when I was building Magma, I had a chance to connect with him and just give him a pitch about what we're trying to do. And from day one, I could see the passion that he brings on board, and most importantly, how like like he could carve his own niche and like take Magma to a greater height. So that's like my and Varenia's relationship. In terms of Ashish, before Ashish was onboarded on our team, like I spent a good 1.5 months with him since December, ever since we were in the idea stage, to kind of see what his vision is with Magma, see how he brings that supply chain expertise. And yeah, I consider myself to be a very I take decisions really fast. He brings a good calm and balance to the team to make sure that there is a maturity in the decisions we take as a team.
Awesome. Govind, over to you.
No, so Neal, this sounds like TAM is large, execution heavy. Say you have to get 3 things right initially to accelerate the margin plus create value. What would those 3 things be? Would it be freight? Would it be an understanding of law? Would it be manufacturers? What are the 3 most important things where you think you will create maximum value?
One of the, I wouldn't say 3 things. One of the biggest things that we are kind of stressing on is the price we are sourcing the goods versus what we are marking that up with our margin and listing it. We have to make sure that our cost of customer acquisition is in lieu with that margin. And essentially what that means is we have to be very dependent on CLV, lifetime value, because if we list products, that gives the incentive to the buyer to hop on to fire the marketplace and check the price of it. Then to acquire that very customer, it's going to be a huge because of the margin we're putting in. So that's what brings us to a lot of other features that we're trying to integrate. One of the features is we're going to Magma Insurance. Magma Insurance is going to be a feature that's going to be rolled out soon. That buyers have the option to kind of insure their goods for 2% of the transaction value, because security is of course something that these buyers, cross-border traders want. So we take a certain cut on that. We make our money in our margins. So yeah, just making sure that the unit economics match and that we don't overspend on acquiring that customer. And yeah, if it's in lieu with our
Understood. And the second question before we ask the other questions, I remember talking 6-7 months back to a procurement company that said, we're going to start with masks and tissue papers and everything which people buy and be the single source. Is there any strategy towards what products you see traction in, or how you are building the initial 10 products?
Yeah, so I always say that e-commerce marketplace relies heavily on its assortment. If the assortment is something that is, like I mentioned, incentivize the buyers to right click and check the prices on 5 the marketplaces, then for an early stage marketplace like us, acquiring that customer is a huge challenge. So our goal is to go into products that are a little standardized, but kind of the rationale should be that the intended buyer should think of it as a product that they can build a brand out of. So some of the products we're talking about are categories, are accessories, and they include a bunch of standardized products. But to answer your question about general products, we don't seem to be getting into it because we believe there's enough companies out there to solve that niche while we carve our niche into unique merchandise.
And also, I think the buyers that you end up going up to, they are the ones who are making probably most of the decision on what they want to. So you can suggest, but maybe, not push towards them. All right. Another one of the questions. What do you think is, why do you think is it that someone would buy source from you instead of from, say, I'm for the lack of another company, Alibaba, but we know that Alibaba is a big pain because of all the whole situation right now. But then even if someone else comes up with the same value prop that you have, why is it that you would be the one preferred instead of them?
Yeah, so I'll start with answering your last question first and then go on to the first question. Is simply because it's an execution heavy business. I wouldn't say Magma is a groundbreaking idea. Magma is something that relies solely on our execution and how we're structuring our supply chain. And we've seen a lot of people come in and go, try to develop like a tech stack to it and, solve this with technology. But we know technology is not enough just to solve this. What it entails is what a day-to-day job at Magma looks like is waking up at 3 in the morning and, talking to Shopify store owners in the US and seeing how we can solve that problem. It's going out during the day and talking to suppliers and seeing how, even though we're paying money to them, treat them as customers, because we're going to be working with them and opening a new channel of demand for them. So yeah, and to answer your second question, is of course our assortment, because that brings us to our supplier mode. A lot of the suppliers we're working with, a lot of products we're talking about, these products are rarely listed on other marketplaces. And even though they're listed, it takes 4 to 5 keywords to find that product. So acquiring that customer does not entail a lot of cost for us. And B is, we're also bringing a sense of standardization into it. Like we've identified our category, and we're also throwing in a bunch of standardized products that we know are already selling out there. So that products can be taken as a narrative that, okay, this is an alternate marketplace where we can consider. And while that customer is there, we can show our assortment and offerings as well. And lastly is our tech mode, which is of course our import button. A lot of these guys we're talking about, their e-commerce merchants, their e-commerce stores. So for them, product onboarding is done manually. They have to download a Chrome extension and do all of that. But at Magma, it's just through one click, you're able to kind of integrate your entire store with the products we offer. And it's a one-stop solution. You can all down the line, we're introducing white labeling, and there's a lot of other features in the works. So yeah, kind of a one-stop destination.
Does it take a whole village to run, or are you just 3 people running it easily?
Yeah, we're 3 people just running it easily. Of course, we are an early stage company. So we've been very fortunate that our cold calls have been successful, whether it's our customers or kind of the mentors we're talking to. We have one of the founder from the ecosystem who's doing some great work at Growers, who's been kind of being our mentor as well, who's been advising us and just making sure that whatever we're doing, it's kind of in lieu with mature decision making, I would say. And it's kind of allowed us to grow as entrepreneurs ourselves and making sure that the kind of products we're offering, the kind of supply chain we're delivering, the kind of modes we're talking about, we live up to it in a way that it's not something that doesn't scale up.
Awesome. We're almost at the halfway mark. I do have 2 questions from the audience here. Shreya, would you want to unmute yourself and ask your question? Or I'll just read it out for you.
No, that's good. That's okay. I'll do that. Hi, Neal. Great to hear your ideas and what you're doing at Magma. I have had some experience in supply chain. I worked in it for 4 years, but not in drop shipping. So I was just curious, how do you handle these fluctuating price and margins? We had great challenge when it came to retailer landing price, distributor landing price. There's so many different ways of calculating the margin for the same SKU, and it's geographic sensitive also. Yeah. And also, how do you facilitate any sort of sale return in this scenario?
Yeah, no, it's definitely a huge pain point, like you mentioned. And as I always commit to it, we're always going to be on the front lines of it. So when we talk about cross-border trade, returned goods are our biggest weakness, because to ship that goods is going to be something that costs, and to bring that back is something that's going to be cost, and to replace it and send new ones is again going to be a cost. And that cost is 9 out of 10 times going to be way more than the merchandise value. So how we kind of structure it is bring a sense of standardization. We kind of narrow down on a category, narrow down on a product, or a category only. And we work with our air freight agents and who have kind of space reserved for the entire year. And what that means is whether we send that many batch of shipments or not, irrespective of that, we're going to get a standard per kg price. And we're kind of structuring our business model in a way where the shipping and taxes is something which is going to be borne by the buyer. But on the off chance that the material we are shipping gets damaged in transit or something happens, we have a shipping agency and the couriers like DHL, FedEx kind of take the liability for it, so that the goods are either returned to us at no cost value, or we get a refund for it. And then we can and then we can kind of work with them. And that's what brings us to our feature of Magma Insurance is every buyer who's out there, they have an option to get 100% security on their order. So on one click, when they're checking out in their cart, they have an option to click the Magma insurance, and it takes 2% of transaction value and kind of assures them a sense of security that, okay, my goods are going to come. And that 2% allows us enough working capital that on the off chance there's a refund, we can work with our air freight agents to create a win-win kind of scenario and not get a pinch in our pocket or a pinch in the pockets of our buyers.
Got it.
Awesome. Thanks, Shreya. Aryan, if you're here, you can ask your question. Yeah, he's here.
Hello. So I was just curious, how big is payments as a problem in the entire experience? What are you doing to integrate payments in the entire experience?
Yeah,
before you answer, Neal, Aryan, would you like to give a background to that question?
I know his background. I've talked to the folks in his company. I can take it up. Aryan, no, payments is of course a challenge. It's always going to be a challenge. Cross-border payments is something that we need to be 100% correct on. And we look up to companies like, SaltPay, who've been doing great work to kind of facilitate that. But at the same time, we have been having some partnerships in with companies to assure that the payment experience is seamless. There are a lot of avenues we think we can kind of solve the problem together. And we continue. It's an area which I consider myself naive to be. So I always try to find myself people more knowledgeable than me to help me out in making sure that other than that, is there a more seamless checkout experience we can provide? We were thinking of a lot of areas where we could open a bank in the country we're targeting to, and then kind of bring the payments here. But there are a lot of tax scenarios that we need to also observe. So the company that we're kind of talking to right now, they've been streamlining a lot of suggestions for us to make it seamless. But we continue to learn more about it.
Awesome. One question that I saw at YouTube was, what do you see as your biggest challenge in the upcoming time when you're scaling up from 0 to 100?
So, I mean, we're 0.0 to 0.1 right now. But as we scale, there's a lot of plans that we have moving forward. 3 months back, we were in idea stage. In 3 months, we got our early, cold orders, grew our team, built our MVP, and we're still pre-launch. We're going to launch hopefully in the next month. And we have some ideas, some plans to kind of assure that as we scale, the problems that Shreya mentioned, Arya mentioned, and concerns mentioned by Sumit and Govind, we adhere to. We know they're going to occur. We are fortunate to get deep insights from experts like this. But we are kind of if you look at our business model and the kind of features we're integrating, we know that we're setting a good base that when these problems come, we're able to solve it in a much better way.
Yeah. Okay. I think we have another one from Shreya. You want to ask that question, Shreya?
Yeah, I just wanted to understand. So naturally, the first thing would be to figure out what verticals would you want to do cross-border.
Yeah.
I mean, establish this for, right? You'd be looking for longer shelf life and things like that. How do you, which ones have you planned, and what factors do you look at for cross-border supply chain, right? That we should only narrow down these and crack these first, because you'd be targeting manufacturers and accordingly.
Yeah, Shreya. So, of course, I wouldn't dig too deep into our vertical, but all I would say is we're going to list products that are unique merchandise, and the rationale behind that is that the buyer who hops on our platform should have incentive that, okay, I can build a brand out of this product. So what I would do is I would refer you to our LinkedIn, that when we launch out, you can accessibly see what vertical we are going after, what specific product we're going after, and how we're doing that supply chain. But yeah, happy to answer any other question in that regard.
Okay, thanks, Neal.
Yeah,
I think your we get up at 3 and start has gotten me a question. Now, how are you balancing work life? It must be taxing to call up and meet up suppliers, maybe.
Suppliers. Yeah, so in December I quit my job. So Magma is something I've committed to full time, and it's I would say a big decision for me, because it was a good paying job, and a lot of people I know were hoping to be in the situation I was, kind of work in a country where I was getting a good work visa and build a good life out there. But this problem statement was enough to attract me back to home and do something that fulfills me in in this ecosystem. So when you're solving a problem, such a big problem like this, I think at this age it requires a naive optimism to do it. And yeah, the game is too big, so you enjoy the game and you wake up at 3 a.m.
Yeah, yes, sure. Now, considering you're relatively new, very, very new, and a lot of suppliers have their, past relationships that they rely on, how are you building the credibility and the trust with the suppliers? And it's never just money. It is a lot more for what supplier wants. So how are you building that with them?
Yeah, it's a brilliant question, actually. A lot of people always tell me that how are you trying to solve that problem? And I would say that Indian supply side is extremely fragmented. And a lot of these products we're talking about, we have to ourselves go out on the field and make sure that the suppliers we're talking to, there's someone, we've observed that there's someone who are not tech savvy. All they have is a GST number, a fulfillment center, and a bank account. And all they care is today if my 200 products are getting sold or not. So what we do is we kind of work with them. We give them a certain percentage of money advance, and then we get credit terms from them for like a good 60 days. And as and when we get a lead, we work with them and open a new stream of demand for them. So that's how we're structuring it right now. But later on, we're going to be an aggregator, so we're going to buy the goods from themselves, from them. So they love it when they just go to them as customers and just tell them that, hey, we're going to buy these goods from you, and kind of assure and build an assurance that we're not someone who trying to exploit your credit terms. So yeah, that's how we've been able to make great relationships. All our suppliers are based in Gujarat right now. That's where I'm from. So I personally know all of them. And yeah, as we continue to scale, we're going to look at a lot of other suppliers from all over India and yeah, work with them.
So that's where my original question was. If you're a 3-people team, how are you walking around talking to suppliers all the time?
I mean, we don't have a lot of products right now. That's why it's just close to 40 suppliers that we've kind of onboarded. So it's manageable, but that's why at the stage we're in, we're kind of trying to grow our team, trying to get resources, capital to make sure that we scale and our KPIs, we live up to our KPIs. So yeah.
Awesome. And where do you see Magma to be in 2 years in the short term, 5 years in the long term? And then where do you ultimately see yourself to be?
Yeah, ultimately, where we see Magma to be is we're not running after a game of getting a major chunk of the TAM. What we like to, our vision has expanded so much that I love it when I tell to people that, what if I tell you that we're making global trade so easy that people who never participated in this exchange of cross-border trade are now, because Magma has made it so easy. That's the vision we want to take it forward. And we know that this vision is going to expand as we move ahead. But on the short-term side, of course, get the platform up and running, get more suppliers onboarded, make sure we're identifying the right products, make sure the demand is in due with the supply, and yeah, later on, make sure the infrastructure is worthy with our acquisition cost, customer lifetime value, and yeah.
So will you then be expanding the team as well?
Oh yeah. Definitely we're hiring across all verticals. We're in process of making 2 big hires over the course of 1 month. And specifically, on the tech side, we'll be hiring full stack developers and backend engineers. And yeah, you'll be closely working with Varenya basically, and building a beautiful platform. And yeah, in terms of the supply chain, we are hiring interns as well, who can help me and Ashish in sourcing and supply chain logistics. So if you're someone who loves global trade, we might have a space for you. So do consider us.
Awesome. Govind, do you have a question? I'll go and check on YouTube in the meanwhile.
No, I don't have any questions, Shruti, but I'm sure, we've tapped Neal at an early stage. Our first startup has led funding raised by a unicorn founder. Second one has got to YC. So I'm sure Neal also in 3-4 months will be in much more action. I think we've got him at the earliest stage possible.
Yeah. Thanks, Govind. Thanks for being an early supporter.
Okay, I'm just checking, but in the meanwhile, Neal, do you want to tell us if you would want to get some recruiting done from us? If you would, if you have JDs, if there's some place you have a JD put up, we'll put that link on the comment section till then.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of preparing that, but just right off the bat, we're actively hiring in our tech team. So if you're a full stack developer, if you I won't go into the qualifications much, but if you're someone who's passionate about global trade, and if you're someone who can ship things fast, get in touch with us, because we are all hands on the deck and we move very fast. So you'll be working with a great set of passionate people and building a great product. And in terms of the sourcing side, you'll be working with me daily. So if you're into supply chain, if you're into logistics, if you like talking to suppliers, if you like talking to air freight agents, you'll be working with me and Ashish on a daily basis, and we'll be all over the Indian supply ecosystem. You'll get to learn a lot of facets involved, so many levels into it. We're a young team. We all understand the ins and out of building a business, building a relationship. So we look to learn from each other, and yeah, it'll be a great ecosystem to be a part of.
Awesome. I think that resonated with one of the YouTube audience. They said, what advice would you give to someone who's in college and wants to start in this vertical? I think they mean the vertical of being a founder.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm not knowledgeable enough. I'm still building a startup. I can't give a good gyan or enough gyan to you, but what I can say is just take that leap of faith. Sometimes it may work, sometimes it may not, but it truly fulfills you. Happy to bounce off any ideas. Feel free to pick my brain anytime. Shruti, if you would be so kind to just put my email out there, I'll be happy to talk to all potential founders who are still in college, struggling to take that leap of faith, because I was in that situation. It's hard, but truly it's worth it.
That is exactly the next question. What was the biggest hurdle for you when you had this idea? And what was the one point which you had to cross in order to start?
So like I mentioned to you, I come from a background of building materials. So my strength was in building materials to a point where a lot of the people I talked to who have been in the industry for a lot of years, I kind of was helping them understand about the industry more, because at the age of 16, my common dinner time conversation was with my father about building materials. So it was a strength, but also a limitation, simply because of the fact that I could not think beyond it. So there came a point where I had to kind of take a step back and see that there is more to the cross-border ecosystem than building materials. And the goal was that I think from a young age, I ran around a lot. So had to kind of play the long-term game. So yeah, that was the whole rationale.
All right. And what was the one point at which you had to cross in order to start?
I think cross was give away the life that I was living in America. Was living a good, I was independent, but I had to quit that job and go all in with this startup. So moved back with my family. And it's at an age where you're kind of independent. You reach a stage where I think a lot of your decisions revolve around that. But when you completely exit that life and live a different life, it's hard. So yeah, not sure if that answers your question, but yeah.
I think they were looking at most like you faced a problem and then you were like, you know what, now I'll just do it. I think that is the...
Yeah, I mean, I kind of struggle to answer questions like this simply because I'm an early stage founder. But what I would say again is that an industry that you may think, for me, it was building materials industry, that I will build a massive career in the building materials industry. But sometimes there is more to it. There are a lot more open opportunities, and all it takes is kind of not kind of being bullish on that very aspect, being open to it. Just being open that there are more problems you can solve while you continue to be a part of industry and see things through it. So yeah, that was, I think, a problem from my side. A lot of founders have different set of problems from their personal lives or something. But yeah, for me, it was just my own internal industry problem.
So I think it was an inspiring and aspirational thing rather than a pain to start with.
Yeah. It was, I don't have good words for it, but I think you get the point.
Awesome. I think there is, do you find a lot of men exporters around, or do you find both, it's pretty gender balanced, and is there anything that you do specifically to be on a balanced slate for that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. There are a lot of amazing women founders that I've had a chance to connect with over the past couple of weeks, who are also trying to make a great career in cross-border ecosystem. And it's a scenario where yes, we see a lot of men exporters, but at the same time, the level of understanding and deep insights that a lot of the women founders I had a chance to connect with, I kind of look up to them now, because these personas that I'm talking about, I stumbled upon them after my conversations with them and after doing my backward integration. And if you look at in the West, a lot of the Shopify store owners, the D2C brands are run by women entrepreneurs, and they are doing some amazing work. Like they're tying up with big influencers and tapping into stores like Urban Outfitters, featuring in Vogue magazines. And I think that speaks volumes that, this cross-border trade has a lot of facets into it. And every I think person brings a unique strength to it. So the more you amalgamate and build a cohesive business out of it, the better it is.
Awesome. I think I'm almost running out of questions. Govind, if you're around, if you have one, that's fine. If someone else wants to unmute themselves and ask a question, that's also great.
Yeah.
Again, Shruti, since we've chatted with Neal a lot, I mean, I don't have questions, but I'm realizing everyone's asking, how do you say the moment of truth, right? I think his unending optimism is one way you just keep going, right? And if it's an execution heavy business, as long as you keep scaling, he'll keep going. So no questions, but I'm looking forward to seeing how Magma gets built.
No. I told you during the course of the interview, it's a big problem. It's a very ugly industry going. So it requires a very naive optimism, and we make sure that we live up to that naive optimism, because so far that's the only thing that has helped us bring the minute success we have.
I fully agree.
Yeah.
So building onto that ugly part of it, there's a question: how much government red tape did you have to cross to be able to make a cross-border trade simpler?
I don't know, actually. It's a great question. We continue to learn about it. We continue to struggle into it. But please refer back to this, email me more about this question. I'll be happy to talk to once we have much more deep insights.
Awesome. I think that's about it for most of the questions. If you have anything else that you'd like to share with us, we're very happy to see. We're very happy to support you in any which way we can.
Yeah.
We're always happy at Creators of Products. We would also invite you to test your initial product with us. I'm not sure how much we can send the products as a supplier, but I'm sure we can do the basic testing of what your website or an application is going to be. It's a great way to just get your product, have a fresh set of eyes, and maybe look at it in a non-biased, absolutely fresh way. So we're happy to do that. We do that from our Alpha Users program, and that's a set of a lot of product enthusiast people looking at anything as a product. So that sort of helps. Oh, I got another question. Do you plan on setting up base in Gujarat, or are you planning to move to Bangalore and someplace else which we might have missed?
No, we're more than happy with setting up our base in Gujarat. We have great infrastructure so far here in terms of how we've been getting because for us, it's just making sure that our local turnaround cost, our local cost, since we're based in Ahmedabad, it allows us to have a good base here. But then the next base we're thinking is international, simply because we want to provide better lead times to our customer. So yeah.
Awesome. Do you, and this is my question, do you see a lot of traction coming out of LATAM and the Southeast Asia suddenly? Because from whatever little I have still been keeping in track, LATAM is now becoming like a huge market. They are not as regularized and as standard as America and Europe is. Which means that, as you said, where there's a chaos, there's always a margin. That's a whole big margin place. Is that something that you're also observing in terms of asking from a supplier point of view?
Yeah, from a supply point of view, of course. I think it's just anecdotally speaking, 9 out of 10 buyers we talk to, they are considering suppliers in Latin America because it's very close to the US, in Southeast Asia, India, Bangladesh, Vietnam, of course. So superb, they're developing their infrastructure really well, and we see them as a good competition. Marketplace is coming out from there to be a good competition to us, but we continue to have our focus on Indian supplier base, but we'll be open to considering, as we scale, maybe have some amazing suppliers from there, list their products on our platform.
Awesome. Okay, so I think that almost brings me to the end of today's episode. This was a great conversation, Neal. Thank you. We are inspired by everything that you end up doing. We are hoping and rooting for you, and we are very happy to have you here. Always welcome for AUP testing, and thanks a lot, Govind, for connecting us with Neal. This was an amazing episode. I'm sure a lot of people learned a whole lot of things. So thanks a lot. Stay tuned, others. We'll be back with a great founder, with a great company very soon, and we'll learn more. Thanks a lot. We're Creators of Products. Please do visit us on creatorsofproducts.com. Thank you. Thanks, Neal.
Thank you. Thank you.